So my transmission in my Jeep is not shifting correctly, and I need to check the transmission fluid. So I pop the hood, and I'm going to go up underneath here, and I'm going to pull the dipstick out. What the hell? There's no stinking dipstick in here. So don't worry, I'm here to help you. Don't go lose your mind. Don't get your old lady, all in a tizzy about this thing. I'm going to show you not only how to get a dipstick, but I'm going to show you how to make it your own. I'm even going to show you how to use electrical tape. What? That's crazy. Yeah, there's a way to use electrical tape. And I'm going to use it in this situation to make this dipstick specifically for my vehicle. And you can make one for yours. Now, normally, anytime when you pull out a transmission dipstick or an oil dipstick, it'll tell you exactly where to check and what to look for. Like in this situation, do not add when in the hash marks. Or if it's not in the hash marks, add it when it's up to operating temperature. Generally halfway on a needle if you have one, or just let the thing run for 10 or 15 minutes. It'll be up to operating temperature. Now, luckily, unlike this vehicle that doesn't even come with the stinking dipstick, Dorman has us covered, and we're able to get a new dipstick. So I went to my local store, or I looked down in the Sweet Clayway description, and I got me a 917 327. Now, this dipstick works for multiple vehicles. I'm going to put them down there in the bottom, not only in the description, probably rolling on the bottom of the screen too. So if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, what's going on? Lots of Jeep in there. Well, that's because this thing works for a lot of things. We're going to make it our own, though, in this situation, and make it work for just this Jeep here so we can leave this with the vehicle if it ever leaves my bosom. So what's up, YouTube? My name's Clay with the Clayway here in Muskegon, Michigan. And I believe my job here on YouTube is not only to show you how to fix something, but explain to you why you're fixing it in the first place, while inspiring you and empowering you, and showing you that if anyone else can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. Now, to check this the right way, we need to fire the vehicle up and let it get up to operating temperature. Now, once the vehicle is up to operating temperature and it is running, we're going to insert the dipstick down to the bottom. Now, don't be going all crazy and be like, right, this thing doesn't fit inside here. I'm off the ticket. I'm going to show you. Just hang on. Just hold on. Now, I'll pull the dipstick out and see what it's got on there. Now, I'm reading 0 because I don't have anything inside the transmission. I dropped the transmission pan out of it. I dropped the filter out of it. I dropped everything out of it. So I'm going to add a couple of quarts of ATF plus 4 in my situation, but check inside your owner's manual to make sure that you're putting in the proper fluid inside yours. Now, included with your dipstick is going to be instructions. I know, you can't believe it, but I do read instructions. You should read instructions and follow the directions. The great thing about these instructions is they tell you all the different vehicles that this dipstick actually covers. And we're going to go down the line and we're going to look for ours, which is a Commander. And it's going to say from 2010 to 2006. It's going to tell us what kind of transmission we have. And then we're going to flip the pages to the graphs. And these graphs are going to tell us where our transmission level should be on our dipstick. Now, since our transmission is the NAGA1, right here tells us what line we're supposed to be on, and right down here tells us what our fluid temperature is supposed to be. So if we're at 180 degrees operating temperature, we need to be at approximately 70-ish. So between 70 and 80, we should be good. So we need to get our level up to this 70. Since my vehicle is up to operating temperature, I want to make sure that I run it through the gears, allowing it to go into gear so the fluid goes up inside the transmission, hopefully getting rid of some of these pesky lights. Now I'm going to check it actually 3 times. I want to wipe it off and check it 3 different times. The reason being is because it's banging around in there, and it might be picking up fluid. If you're banging the sidewalls, you need to pull it out a couple times and put it back in. Be wary of misreadings. You should be able to see liquid on both sides of the dipstick. This side represents that we would be at the adequate level, but then this side doesn't have anything on it except for up here, and down here it's pretty dry. So we have a dry hole and we definitely need to fill it. Now, once we have it filled to the proper level and we ran it through the gears, we should have a coating on both sides of the dipstick, and it should be reading appropriately. In this situation, mine's reading about 75, so I'm going to leave it right about there, and we're good to go. Making this our own is super simple. We just put it down inside there and wait for it to bottom out. It's bottomed out. Take our marker, put our marker up against the tube, then mark it. Now you can pull it out and cut it right there. You could cut it a little bit longer. It's always better to be too long than too short. So we're gonna go ahead and probably just cut it like 1/8 of an inch longer than what it's supposed to be so it can protrude out, because we have a little bit up in the cap that we could go up in there with. Now, because I want to have the little ring to be able to pull out my dipstick whenever I want, I'm going to connect them together with electrical tape. There's several different ways you could possibly do this, and I'm absolutely certain that you can think of dozens of them, but this is the way I'm doing it today. Okay, so this cable doesn't come apart on us. We're going to use some electrical tape, and that's a nice added bonus for you folks, especially if you've never used electrical tape properly. Believe it or not, there's a way to use electrical tape. So anytime you're wiring anything up, the right way to use electrical tape is to put it on whatever wires you're putting it on and stretch it. And you're going to notice that it collapses in. We're not trying to pull it so it's dense, but we're trying to pull it so you literally can see the ribs inside whatever you're putting it on. And if you apply electrical tape properly, you'll be super successful. Now, I'm always tugging as I go around, and you should be able to see the braids in the steel. And that'll be the same thing if you're doing wiring at home. When you go to tear that off, make sure you pull it and then stick it on. Then that way, at the end, it'll be nice, tight, and even when the temperature changes outside, it won't change structure. Now make sure you keep in mind where the location is that it needs to be cut. You should have tape over both ends so it doesn't fray. Now, when we cut that off, it doesn't unfray. Now, holding the end that could possibly fray, I'm going to pull it through the vise and add more electrical tape to it, making sure that it doesn't come apart. Now we can take both links of our dipstick and we can put them together on one another, putting the tip up here at the top and running the bottom down, putting both of them in the vise so we can start connecting them together. Make sure that they're the lengths that you like. Remember, as you're doing this, make sure you're pulling the electrical tape so you can see the stainless steel underneath it. This will ensure that it is tugged correctly and will hold up and last. Now I'm going to twist both pieces together and I'm going to start taping them together. I'm not worried about getting anything wrong or getting the tape wet because I'm never going to touch bottom. Now I've taken and I've wrapped it around itself a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back inside the vise, and I'm going to finish taping up this area. Now you could use JB Weld, you could use a lot of different things to hold this together. I just was using this for the quick, and I know it'll work because electrical tape is made out of plastic and this is stainless steel, so should last a long time. And because we've actually got extra sticking out right here, technically we wouldn't have had to even do this part. We could have just stuck the cap on there and we'd have a great instrument to check our transmission fluid. So, and do it however you want. This is just the clay way. How comes you're using electrical tape to hold that stainless steel together? And why do you look like Peter, but you sound like Cleveland? As I was doing this, I was thinking to myself, I probably could have used heat shrink. That probably would have worked really well too. But I think if once I do this electrical tape and I heat it up a little bit with this, it'll shrink down and it'll stay on for a long time. When you have ends that come off like this, pull it and wrap it. Because as you pull and wrap, that is going to shrink and it grabs it a lot better. It's just all the pull and the wrap. And then you hit it with a little bit of heat after you're done and it won't come off. It'll be like liquid cement. Bam. Nice and tight. Just right. That's what she said. Okay, so let's do a final test fit. Dang, I had to cut that part out. I was having a hard time finding the hole. What the heck? Bam! She's in there. So I ran on down to the Harbor Freight and I grabbed some more shrink wrap. And I think this thing turned out freaking cool, man. I mean, you know, not too bad for at home. You don't need anything special. Some electrical tape, some heat shrink, some Dorman dipstick tube. And bamola, you got your own custom dipstick tube for your Jeep. And what isn't cooler than having a custom Jeep? Well, hopefully you feel a little bit more inspired and empowered to do this stuff yourself. If you don't mind and you liked my video, please consider subscribing, clicking the notification, sharing my videos, and give me them sweet old thumbs up. And remember, if you ever have a question and it's automobile related and not baby mama drama stuff, I might be able to help you with that. Look me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook Messenger. I'll certainly try to help everyone that I possibly can for as long as I can. If you want to help the channel out at nighttime, put on one of the sweet Clayway playlists. Turn that volume down so you don't have to listen to this old mouth run. And let them playlists play all night long. Remember, if anyone else can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. Don't be the next of them. Be the very first of you. God bless, folks. Have the best of days. You could literally call that a dedicated dipstick, just like me.